My name is Nick, and welcome to my channel, where I like to talk about scary stuff. Malignant is the latest horror film from James Wan, starring Annabelle Wallis as Madison, a woman who is recovering from a recent tragedy when she begins having bizarre visions of grisly murders, prompting her to understand what secrets from her past are causing the horrors of her present. So I'm finally getting around to talking about Malignant, and I am like, where do I even start with this movie? So originally, before I even watched the damn thing, I recorded an introduction to talk about how I had the lowest expectations for it, and I rambled for like 6 minutes, so I'm gonna try and condense it here. But I really had no interest in this movie for a number of reasons, mostly because it's the new James Wan movie. I know, blasphemy. And he has now gifted us with Malignant, which is just absolutely so malignant. I gotta tell you, if you are not familiar with a lot of my top 10s, I always talk about a bad movie that I happen to love. I just love bad movies, what can I say? And Malignant pulls off nearly the impossible in that it is trying to be a bad movie, and it still works. Like I said, I had extremely low expectations. I was not interested in the movie really at all, but I still wanted to give it a chance because I thought, if this is trash, it could be some great trash. And I mean, it kind of is. But I actually went and saw this in theaters. I know most people watched it on HBO Max. That's cool. I also did. I ended up watching it twice in the same day. I watched it 3 times over last weekend when it premiered. I don't know. I was just living in Malignant world and should have gotten this review out earlier. But I'm so glad that I saw it in theaters because there were 2 other people in this really large, nice theater, and I was howling with laughter. I was yelling in the theater. I didn't even need to have a big full midnight crowd. I brought all that energy on my own. And as this movie played out, I was just having the best damn time. Like I said, I love bad movies, and I can enjoy a movie even if it isn't perfectly executed. I try to have fun with just about everything. I want to like every movie in whatever way I can. And as I was watching this movie, I was just like, wow. One of my notes was just I am trying to explain how in your face this dialogue is. This movie is heightened. These are characters in a movie. I couldn't help but laugh from the very beginning, and as things progressed, I got so wrapped up in it, and I just think this movie is such a blast. I was talking about it with a friend afterwards, trying to convince him to watch it, and he's like, well, come over and watch it. And I was like, I just saw it. I'm not gonna watch it again. And just talking about it, I ended up watching it again that night on HBO Max, not with my friend, who still wanted to watch it. So then 2 days later, I went over to his place and watched it again, and I did not need that much Malignant in my life in such a short time span, but you know what? I'm really glad that this movie had its moment. Like I said, Malignant takes heavy inspiration from giallo films, and if you're unfamiliar with the subgenre, well then a lot of this movie really might not work for you because there are things that I'm just like, that is so straight out of a giallo film, but in its own way. When the sister character just shows up at the hospital wearing her princess outfit, and you're just like, what? And it never comes back into the movie at all. It's just that is so something that would happen. Or when we see the tour guide woman, when we're introduced to her and we're just sort of sitting there zooming in on random tour guide lady. I mean, obviously she does have something to do with the movie, but that just felt like a moment out of a giallo film where we kind of just stop and focus on a thing and then move on to other things. Because I've been watching a lot of these movies recently and finding a true appreciation for them, I think Malignant felt like a personal gift to me, and I was so into it. But again, a lot of people are finding plenty of different inspiration. They're saying there's a lot of 90s horror in this movie, which there were a lot of police thrillers in the 90s, but I think the cop elements in Malignant go straight back to Giallo. The fun thing is that all of us have different sort of feelings about Malignant, whether we love it or hate it, and we all seem to hate it for different reasons or love it for different reasons. And I just happen to love a project, a movie, a TV show, something that really sparks that kind of conversation, something that allows us to really dive into it and to look for the plot holes, even though this movie, I mean, it's funny. None of it makes sense, yet it's also, like, directly told to you. Like, straight up in the beginning, in the opening sequence, you see the thing. Am I going to talk about spoilers? Am I going to talk about Gabriel? You see Gabriel. And, like, even the opening credits pretty much show you exactly what's happening. And again, yeah, if you've seen a few movies like this, like The Eyes of Laura Mars or things like that, you know, you're gonna kind of piece things together. I've heard one of my favorite YouTube reviewers say that they've seen this before. I have not seen Gabriel before, like, everything, like, no, I mean, I think, yeah, if you, like, kind of blend a bunch of things together, but I did not see that reveal coming. And as much fun as I was having with the movie to begin with, once it went there and we started doing it, I was just like, yes. Again, I was laughing so hard. In that reveal, when you see Gabriel's little arms flinging, that is when I lost it. I was like, yes, I both love and hate this movie. This is the dumbest thing ever, and it's amazing. I want to give a shout out to the entire cast, basically, because it is so hard to get this assignment and do it right. And I really thought that George Young did a great job as Kakoa Shaw, the lead detective. And it's so interesting, I thought, to see a character who is sort of like this cool, suave, like, detective guy who, like, actually came off as cool and not, like, a macho douche. Like, I really appreciated that, especially in the one chase scene. As it was started, I was like, yeah, if this is a Giallo movie, I mean, we gotta have a foot chase. You gotta have a foot chase. And it was so good. Nicole Brianna White is perfect as his partner, who feels like a real human being who stepped out from a different movie and into this one and is like, are you fucking serious? Like, this is ridiculous. She was great. She had me cracking up the whole time. I also really liked Maddie Hassan as the sister, whatever her name was. She was good. I really liked her in We Summon the Darkness from last year, and it was nice to see her again in a horror film, but in a very different role. And I was so glad that she had stuff to do as a character and that things worked out the way they did with her and her developments. I thought she was really solid. I thought she was a good character to have to go along for the ride with, you know? But I, of course, have to give a lot of credit to Annabelle Wallis. And I want to say that I think it is straight up mean to just dislike actors. It's really not fair to dislike an actor based on a role that they played if you know, are harboring some sort of grudge or something like that. I think, you know, an actor's job is to step in and be a chameleon and do exactly what the, you know, role calls for. That being said, I've, like, hated, like, everything that Annabelle Wallis is in. And I want to be clear, I think she's a good actress. I've watched some interviews with her on, like, late night shows. She's actually funny, like, seems like a cool person, like, someone you'd want to go have a drink with. Like, good for you, Annabelle. But, like, I swear, if I see her name attached to something, I'm like, I know it's a bad movie. I mean, that awful Mummy movie, Annabelle, the King Arthur movie, that abomination. I don't even know why I watched it, but I remember I was watching it, and during the opening credits, her name popped up, and I was like, oh, I knew it was going to be bad. I didn't know it was going to be that bad, Annabelle. I've kind of just decided for myself that she is the queen of bad movies, and that makes her the perfect fit for the heroine of Malignant. I think her role was to channel Edwidge Fenech. I'm sure I'm butchering that name. I'm sorry, the internet, but I've been watching a lot of her movies recently. She is the beautiful brunette from all of the Giallo films not directed by Argento or Bava, and I just felt like Annabelle Wallis was totally meant to sort of be her, and she did it. Like, she did the damn thing, and I gotta give her all the credit for it. Sorry, this really isn't much of a review as much of a discussion about Malignant, so let me get into the grading here. For the concept, I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5, because this was the dumbest thing that I've seen in a long time. For the execution, I'm giving this a damn 4.5 out of 5. Way to go, James Wan. Way to go. And for the entertainment value, I'm gonna give it a 2.5 out of 5. I have to say, after watching it like 3 times in a row, I really appreciate the structure and the pacing of this movie. Like, on my first watch, I found it to be like a little slow, took a little bit to get into it, but on rewatch, I was like, oh wow, no, we get right in there, we start doing it immediately, and I really appreciate that. But overall, I enjoyed the wacky bonkersness of it. At the same time, it isn't one I'm gonna want to watch a lot. As for my personal grade, I'm gonna give Malignant a 3 out of 5. I can't even decide if it's actually good or not. Like, I really don't know. But since we're here, let's talk about some spoilers, right? Let's get into it. Let's talk about the fun stuff. So, one thing that I want to bring up that I think doesn't make sense at all, that just is stupid, like, for the most part, I really don't care. It's just Malignant. Gabriel is ridiculous and okay, but in the scene when Madison has her first vision, or like right before, she's walking down the stairs, headed to go do the laundry, and you see a random kid run by, and like, I thought it was a very good classic James Wan jump scare. I was like, well done, I'm glad there weren't too many of those in the film, but that's never explained. Like, I mean, I'm trying to piece it together, and I feel like if you try to connect dots that aren't there, like, you're already doing more work than Malignant did itself. Like, that should be the tagline. Malignant, don't think about it. But it's like, why is there a kid? Where does he come from? And like, what does that have to do with anything? I kept thinking, oh, maybe she's having a vision of like what's happening in the house where the doctor is who's being murdered, but there's no mention of there being a kid in the house at the time that she's murdered. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, of all the things that people are bringing up of like, well, what about this with Malignant? It's like, who cares? Who cares where Gabriel gets his powers from? I don't. I want to know, where the fuck did that kid come from? And I want to talk about the funniest scene I've seen in anything in a while. Like, this was where I kind of had to control my laughter in the theater on first watch, because I was dying over it. But when the woman escapes, she's like, tied up in the attic. We see she's in this creepy attic and Gabriel has brought her there. When she escapes and falls through the floor and into the living room, and we realize that she's been in Madison's attic this entire time, oh my god. I still think it's the funniest thing of all time. It's so good. She comes crashing down, which was pretty well established, I thought, like the geography of the house and the architecture. So we see like, oh yeah, that's a room with a high ceiling. That's a far fall for her to just crash into the living room table. And then Annabelle Wallis gives that great awful scream, and it's so cheesy and so good. It was just, that's when I was like, Malignant, you can do whatever the fuck you want. I'm here for it. And again, I know I touched on it, but that reveal when we see like the old tape of Gabriel, and he's like, like on her back, all T-Rex arms, is just, that is another one where I was like, nope, I'm sorry. I am going to let it all out. I will laugh as hard and long as I want, because this is the greatest thing ever. I even wrote down in my notes, I was like, this is some basket case shit. Like, that was when I knew, like, I thought it was gonna be just like intentionally bad, just in terms of everything that was going on. I didn't think we were really gonna go there. And then once we realized, like, Madison has been sort of kept in this like sort of like, mental prison at times, as Gabriel comes out and uses her body and twists her arm. Like, that's when I'm like, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen Tumor rework your body to go commit murders. Like, that was just so much. Now, because I am so offline, I don't know if this is already like a meme or a gif, but it should be, because it's a new inside joke with my friend that I watched this movie with. When they're kind of showing like how they try to do the surgery, and they're like, well, we just kind of had to stuff some of Gabriel right down into Madison's skull. It was all we could really do. I'm just now like, anytime I think of like when the going gets tough, like just push it down. Just push it all the way down, just like Malignant. I mean, since we're here, since I'm already recording for as long as I am on this video, we have to talk about the best scenes in this movie. The 1-2 punch in the police station when Gabriel takes over and just absolutely massacres all of the women in that holding cell. I did not realize until like way after that Zoe Bell was the one woman. I was like, that is awesome. That is so cool. And then after that, I mean, you've got Gabriel punching all the way through a woman. That was so good. It was so good. And then when there's that big attack, this was so ridiculous. This was hilarious to me. So when there's that big attack, when he takes out all of those other police officers in like the office space, I find it so funny because you have all of these police officers who are like running up on Gabriel, and then you cut to the two detectives who are like off to the side, and there's just gunfire everywhere. Like they can't move because there are all these bullets flying around, and it's like, what are all these people doing? Just like firing all over the place. There's one target, and as soon as Gabriel gets close to them, they immediately try to like beat him with their clubs. It's like, you've got guns. What are you are all doing this so wrong. I do have to say that I did find the ending disappointing, like pretty much everything in the hospital room. It was just sort of like, okay, I mean, I liked it thematically. I felt like it was kind of just what we needed to do, but I felt like after that police station scene, it was just like, all right, now let's wrap it up. Like, we've done it. Malignant is over. That's it. I am glad that there were as many surviving characters as there were. This movie does not need a sequel at all, and I want one. I want a sequel today. A couple other side characters I want to point out. I noticed this on my very first watch in the opening scene, which I think really lets you know what movie you're watching, but Patricia Velasquez has a tiny little role in here, and I was like, oh my god, is that her? And then I waited at the end of the credits. She's even listed like at the very bottom, like, and Patricia Velasquez as Nurse Velasquez, as if it's some important special role. But I'm just guessing that James Wan was enough of a fan as I am, that it was just like, I want you in my movie, come do it. Also, Ingrid Bisu, who plays the crime scene investigator, who totally has a thing for Cocoa, I did not know was James Wan's wife, and I think that's how you do it. You know, a lot of us can be very critical of filmmakers casting their spouses and things. I honestly really don't care as long as they don't suck ass. And I felt like she really stood out in a right way where she was a solid little character. Like, I didn't want her to die, and I'm glad that, you know, she lived, and I'm also glad that she like earned that out of me as an audience member all on her own. I had no idea who she was outside of just being random crime scene investigator person with crush on detective. And it's funny because, like I said, I watched this movie like 3 times in a row, basically, and I kept seeing her name pop up, and I was like, what do I know her from? What do I know her from? And I was like, this movie, because you keep seeing her in the credits because she not only starred in it, but she also contributed to the story as well as produced it. So good for you, Ingrid. I'm a fan. Honestly, the one thing that I think I kind of have to talk about is the fact that Malignant really isn't scary. Like, I wanted there to be more initially, but what it gave me ultimately made me feel satisfied. I wonder how you guys feel about that. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it as always, especially for watching this specific random rambly video. I know I'm very late to the party on Malignant, but thank you guys so much for being patient with me as always. I am hoping to get more and more reviews and videos out to you soon. So if you're not already subscribed, do that. Leave a like, leave a comment, share with your friends, follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd for more movie recommendations. And that's it for this one, but I won't stop you from watching another.